Hello, my name is Fraser Simons. This is my channel, Springboard Thought. Today I just wanted to do a quick review on The Strangers by Katherena Vermette, who is made popular, rightly so, for the breaks and other novels, which, by the way, has a little Easter egg connective tissue thing happening with The Strangers. One of the characters in the breaks is featured in this one also. The Strangers features 3 generations of Indigenous women, some of whom have the last name Stranger, hence the name. The conflicts and the way that it interrogates systemic racism and other kind of less known instances of the way in which Indigenous peoples are oppressed in Canada is phenomenal. It does not read like a I don't want to say typical can-lit Indigenous story, because in fairness, most of them are quite eclectic, even when they focus on very similar things, such as residential schools. This feels more standout in a substantial way because of the way it interrogates 2 things in particular. The penal system that we have for Indigenous people, which is systemically racist, and what it actually does to this family is wild and heartbreaking and unique in a way, because I have not, out of all of the Indigenous stuff I've consumed, had a story that revolved around jail, I think. It is also really apt at examining accountability and basically what we would call like generational conflict, harm, and trauma in a way that is really compelling, because it jumps back and forth non-linearly to people that we've sort of solidified particular notions about. And Vermette just constantly will upend that. She'll subvert it or invoke certain aspects of other characters that you would think would only be tangential to specific people, but tie into their stories greatly. There's a particular character, Margaret, who feels almost villainous in the way that she treats her children. And of course that is expounded upon when it goes into her childhood, which was very rich and textured, and it really characterizes her so much after the fact. For so long in the book, I didn't think that we would get a chapter on Margaret being young, or at least one that wasn't so heavily focused on her. Usually it would just kind of like flit in and out, but it saves it for the exact right moment in the text for when it will be potent, and sort of like exactly when all of her children have these solidified notions about Margaret. We then, as a reader, have them, and then we get to examine them in the past, and then also in the future when it continues its narrative through a younger generation. And so it's just very comprehensive and interesting. I mean, 3 generations of women, how it's affected them. Between Margaret and Phoenix, her daughter, who we open the book with having a baby in a very graphic way, and then what that does to her, because we learn that she has given birth while jailed, and what that exactly means, and how that changes her relationship to herself, to the other inmates, the actual societal structures, and her family especially. I mean, including her child as well. But it's just a very nuanced and potent way to structure the story, especially when one of the people we already know from the breaks. It's so interesting, and probably why it was long listed for the Giller, shortlisted for the Writers Association's prize, I think. The new prize with Atwood and Gibson having held it. They renamed the prize. Hopefully this wins, because I think it was fantastic, although I must say I haven't obviously consumed the other one, so I should do that. But I just really connected with this story, and I thought it was fantastically done. And as I said, it's just a very different way to characterize an Indigenous experience within a community, within a family, and to show the toxic traits that people internalize and how that trauma is again inflicted generationally, because that is a notion that is usually dismissed by white people. The notion that the pain that people have experienced generations ago could still be happening within the ranks of people living today. If you don't even believe in science for how that could be actually happening, you can just look at it from a sociological perspective and see that people who have internalized pain, when they raise other people, some of those things are maybe, though filtered sometimes or even made more potent, are passed down to the children again. And then that's without even the systemic elements of society putting pressure on them. So it's just very intelligent, and I found it very compelling. I consumed it as an audiobook. The narrator was fantastic. I'll definitely be picking up a physical copy, and I can't recommend it enough. If you want to read, especially with Indigenous Thon in November happening, this would be a great option. It's fantastic. If you've read any of her other books, and if you are looking forward to this book, let me know in the comments. If you've read her other books in particular, though, I'd like to know where to go from here. What else should I be consuming, people?